Okay, welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do an update on copper today, and we'll also look at FCX, Freeport McMoran. It's pretty heavily tied to copper, but although it is also correlated to some other assets as well. So for let's just start on, I guess let's start on the annual chart, right? Let's pull that up, see how that looks for copper. And I'm sure we've looked at this one in the past. Okay, right. So, and I'm sure I mentioned this on Twitter. Let's just get rid of these drawings for a second. This is a bearish outside candle, right? This is an annual chart where every candle is an entire year of price action. So we made a high above the high from last year, from 2021, and then we made a low below that candle. But now what have we done? We've now come back above the low from last year, and this candle is shaping up to be more doji-like, which just means it has a lot of upper wick and a lot of lower wick, which means price did not follow through, right? It was going lower, but it didn't follow through. It was going higher, but it didn't follow through. That's not good generally. Like, it's just, which is to say, it's not really like it hasn't really picked a direction, kind of. But at the same time, this is still red. We are still going to close lower than we opened, which is generally not a good sign, right? You can see we've had periods where we've had several red years in a row. You know, we had this period where we had that one big red year that was 2008, which was a bearish outside year as well. And you can see the next year was green, but it stayed inside, and we rallied. So we could get something like that, right? And we, at some point, we're going to get some kind of trending move like this again, right? But for now, what we do know is that next year is probably going to open as an inside year. And I've been talking about this a lot as we get closer, to next year, right? It's going to be something like that, right? Depending on where this closes, we're going to open inside the range. And then it's going to be a matter of which side of it do we break first. And we're going to be closer to the lower end, obviously. So that is important to just kind of be aware of. And if we zoom in, let's look at the quarterly. Yeah. So the quarterly chart did make a swing low at one point, and this was a swing low. But so that would be when we were above $3.78. We're now below that, so we really need to reclaim that. And you can see we have this upper wick, which just means it's a pullback on a lower time frame, right? And so if we zoom into the monthly, right, so we're getting that pullback here on the monthly. So this also tells us, this is your monthly chart. Sorry, it's moving around here. This is your monthly chart for copper. That next month is going to open as an inside month, almost certainly, unless something crazy happens next week, right? That we make a new low or we make a new high. Next month is going to open like something like that, right? That's when our December candle will open. Like it could always fall off a cliff or just go to the moon, but this gives us a sense of how it will open, and we can kind of try to position ourselves for that. And what we'll know is that we need to get outside the range of this month, right? Which is a high of $3.96 and a low of $3.37. So anything inside that is really just consolidation on the monthly level. And then if we zoom into the weekly, so we're just working our way down the time frames, as you can tell, what we can see is that we've had this nice little rally for 2 weeks, and then we had this rejection. Like that was last week, this red candle, and then this week we got bearish follow through. This was a red candle at one point, but it then reversed and now it's going green basically. I think actually we closed. So we closed as like a faint green candle, meaning so we opened at $3.64 and we closed at $3.64. Yeah, so we're green. We closed at exactly the same price that we opened. So like it's almost like nothing happened this week, right? But of course we made a low of $3.55, right? So we know that we did get follow through. We did get follow through at first, right? And then we got that rally. So in terms of the count, right, this is definitely a little bit squirrely, right? I'm starting to think, right, like maybe you call this whole thing one rally, right? So from here to there is 12, and then that gets you to 21. And then if this is 9, so this is just, yeah, so it's starting to look like this is basically just a 30-week cycle, right? And it topped out on week 12, right? We then had this like this little rally, right? And then it took us to our final low. So to be clear, like this whole thing becomes a cycle. That makes sense, right? And so then that would put us at, wait a second here. That would make this week 18. So that's interesting. So this could very well be our weekly cycle high here on week 18. That would make sense structurally too, right? So that would have pretty immediate implications, meaning we're like just starting the weekly cycle decline after an 18-week rally, but I mean a really ugly rally, right? Like we only really got the upside in the last like 3 weeks. So we'll watch that. That's interesting. And on the daily level, you can see we had this we had this move, which is at, those 2 weeks. That's what that is on a daily level. And then we kind of tried to give back a lot of the rally. But I mean, notice where we stopped, right? Wow. Right where we needed to. That's kind of beautiful symmetry, right? That's right where you would expect it to stop if it were going to stay relatively bullish. I mean, really, you would want it to stop a little bit earlier. This is a pretty deep pullback, but this is going to be interesting. So if we think about, I haven't marked the daily cycles here. From here to here, looks like that's one. And then, or maybe that's actually just one long one, right? Like from here to there. And then you have another one from here. That would make your high on day 33, and that would be this day 38. So that's that. So that's interesting. I mean, could be that we're getting a daily. That could be it's our daily cycle low, but it does mean we're later in the daily cycle, which is good to know. So we'll leave it there. We'll actually do FCX in a separate video, but that's our copper update. Big implications here for everything, really.